Well, let's get into some industry talk. And I'm George Mienie and your host for our industry talk segment. I have Lawrence, Martin, and Wandile on with me. How's it, gentlemen? And I suppose the first topic of conversation is we might be running out of, well, you as a consumer might be running out of time to buy a used car. You know, while the new car sales are under pressure, and we saw a 68% decline in new car sales year on year, which is should be recovering, not to 68% because of half a month of lockdown for the car sales industry. There seems to be quite a lot of activity in the used car market, which kind of lends itself to consumers seem to be buying more used cars than they ever have, and maybe a sign of economic pressure. The autotrader.co.za website showed a total of 37.7 million searches for used cars in the month of May versus 25.1 million in the same month last year. That is a whopping increase of 50% year on year. Now, given that used car sales dealerships and new cars dealerships only opened halfway through May, a 50% increase year on year in searches is phenomenal. It might mean that we are seeing a bigger swing to used cars than we anticipate. While the selling price or the sales price of used cars in the month of May totaled 4.8 billion rand versus 10.2 billion rand being sold over the same period in May in 2019, which is a massive decline. There seems to be pent-up demand. Do you guys think that we're in a run for used cars?
I think there's a strong possibility, George, mainly due to affordability. Used car depreciates about 20% or so after a year. And that could just make or break the difference between buying a car that you want or buying a car that you need.
Well, that's true. I mean, buying a car that you want or buying a car that you need, that's a very interesting concept, Martin, because, at the moment in our current economic environment, I would imagine buying a car that you need is more important. But if you buy a used car, you can almost get what you want and what you need all at the same time.
As well, yeah.
So I wonder if this the statement that they're saying that you're running out of time to buy a used car, I don't think we're going to run out of used cars. I think there's always going to be used cars out there. I think we're going to run out of the used cars that people want. So having your pick of the litter, so to speak, might be a little bit more difficult without there being new cars sold, which feed the second-hand car market.
Well, there's that, Lawrence, but also remember, as used car demand goes up, so will used car prices.
Exactly. Demand and supply, the economic model.
Exactly. So we might be running out of time to buy a used car at a reasonable price.
Well, I mean, I think Lawrence is onto something there because, the new car market does feed the used car market. The new cars eventually become second-hand cars. And if new car is under pressure and we're selling less and less new cars, that feeds even more into used cars becoming more in demand, certain makes and models becoming more in demand as they sell out. And that all goes for prices rising. So Lawrence, I think what I mean by saying you might be running out of time is you might be running out of time to get your hands on a used car at the current prices, because those prices might be set to go up.
Yeah.
And
definitely. We've also seen that the OEMs have been forced to kind of increase the prices of their vehicles, right? So that's going to be more pain for the consumer. Whereas, it's a lot slower effect on the used car space. So for consumer, it's almost a no-brainer for you to just go used and get more value essentially for your buck.
Exactly. So it remains to be seen, but I think we're headed for a bigger used car swing in the current economic times, especially given lockdown and the circumstances we find ourselves in. People get value for money. I like what Martin said in that you get what you need and you get what you want when it comes to a used car. But VW Polo. Let's talk about VW Polo for a second. And VW Polo, from a new car sales point of view, and as well as a demand on Google point of view, seems to be skyrocketing. The VW Polo and Polo Vivo were the top two selling passenger vehicles from a new car perspective in May 2020. The duo sold 668 and 636 units respectively. This T-Cross wasn't very far behind. So, is VW Polo going to be that thing, that car that we see these prices go up because of demand?
Yeah, they kind of launched a bunch of vehicles. Correct me if I'm wrong, Martin and Lawrence, but they released a bunch of very affordable cars at the end of last year, and we're kind of seeing that with coronavirus happening. These are cars that people are considering a lot more than their competitors, simply because they price really well and they're great vehicles. So why not buy this? If you're going to buy new, why not go for a car that's priced right?
Exactly. So, so if we go and have a look at Google searches for VW Polo, it is constantly on the rise. If we have a look at vehicle searches on autotrader.co.za during the month of January to May, there is a consistent marked increase from January all the way to now for the VW Polo. It was a little bit flat towards lockdown, but ever since lockdown, the VW Polo has absolutely skyrocketed in vehicle searches. So, my guess is that we're going to start seeing a hardening of the price of second-hand VW Polos as it becomes more and more in demand. VW is gonna benefit from this. We have VW plants in South Africa. We produce VW. So all in all, this points to a very good situation for our economy. The next,
if I could add one thing,
go for it, Martin. Go for it.
If I could add one thing there, in times of trouble, people tend to look for the known and trusted quantities. And
VW Polo is one of them.
Is the Polo?
Yeah,
that is it.
Exactly.
It's the same way that they look for Hiluxes and Isuzu KBs as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you get a Polo, you get a slightly cheaper car, but you almost get a Golf. And we know the power of Golf over the years. And so here's another question: the South African car sales, will it bounce back? Do we think it is going to bounce back?
Yes.
Yeah, I think 100%. It has to bounce back. It's going to bounce back. We're already seeing it bounce back as is. I think the big question is when. When are we going to see it going back to, post or pre-COVID predictions?
I think it's going to take a couple of months. The National Automobile Manufacturers Association of Manufacturers of South Africa seem to believe that new car sales are not going to bounce back until at least October. So that's on the new car sales front. I mean, who knows? Because under economic pressured times, we see a swing to used. I think used car is already bouncing back. We can see it in the search numbers. We can see it in the sales numbers. While we had a half a month of sales during the month of May, it is actually very, very encouraging for used. So it remains to be seen for new. And, it's anybody's guess what's going to happen. I'm not Nostradamus and I don't have a crystal ball. But it definitely seems promising that used car is going to bounce back fairly quickly versus new. And, one thing about South Africa is that we're a car-faring nation. We don't have public transport infrastructure. We don't have, real proper first world infrastructure when it comes to getting from point A to point B. South Africa is also 9 times the size of the UK. The UK can fit into South Africa 9 times, but we have a similar population. And we have to get around. So cars are not something that is going to be going anywhere. It's just, is it going to be more used or is it going to be more new? And my guess is that it's going to be more used. What do you think?
Oh yeah, used cars definitely. I think we're already seeing the numbers, and I'm going to predict. I'm going to do the Nostradamus crystal ball thing and say by the end of August, we are going to see pre-COVID numbers with used car. I think new car is going to take a serious hammering. Probably not only going to see numbers until next year, December, when people hopefully get some kind of Christmas bonus. Used car is going to take off, and it's not just people buying a new used car. It's people trading down, trading in that big car that they can no longer afford and looking for something that they know. that is market known.
Well, there you have it, and we've reached the end of our industry segment. Thank you, gentlemen. My name is George Mienie, and that's been Industry Talk. See you next time.